how old should your private jet be? So you're thinking of buying a private jet, you're thinking of buying an older one, you're not sure how old it's going to be. You may have just seen the accident, a NASCAR driver, Greg Biffle, and his family died, and the airplane was 40 years old. So a lot of people are saying it was an old airplane, that's why it crashed. Just to let you know, planes don't crash for one reason, they crash for a series of reasons lined up. The Swiss cheese model, we talk a lot about that here on Biz Jet TV. But anyway, let's get into the meat of the episode today. My name is Fabrizio Poli, I'm an airline transport pilot. I've been flying for many years, flown for private jet outfits, flown for the airlines, and bought and sold aircraft over the last few years, leased aircraft, chartered planes out. I've done a lot of things around aviation, but above all, my operational experience, both as a pilot and training pilots, as brings a lot of value to the table for you. So let's talk about older aircraft. Now, when you're looking at buying an older aircraft can be a good idea, actually. Now, of course, there are people that buy new airplanes. When you do order a new airplane, you usually have to wait 1 or 2 years for delivery. If you want an airplane right away, you go to what's called the pre-owned market. Now, when you're looking at an older aircraft, you have to look at things like the maintenance records. Well, first of all, you need to hire a technical advisor, which will bring in the right legal experts and the right engineers and that to do the pre-buy inspection. And one of the things we look at are the records, the maintenance records. Now, we're going to make sure that the maintenance records have been maintained well, particularly when it's 15, 20-year-old airplanes. When I say maintenance records, every time an airplane goes flying, a tech log gets filled in. Every time a tyre gets changed, it's filled into the tech log. Anytime any maintenance is done, it's written in the tech log. These tech logs get kept over time, and they pile up as books. So over 20 years or 25-year-old airplane will have a lot of these books that need to go through. And so during the pre-buy inspection, the people doing the pre-buy inspection, will physically go through these books, and it can take a week, sometimes 2 weeks to do this. They'll go through every single page. They make sure that everything is covered from day one, from the airplane came out the factory up until today. And if there are any gaps, question mark. Why is there a gap here? Why is it that there's no maintenance of the aircraft from 1991 to 1994? What happened? Is there anything in the records here that tells us what happened during those 3 years? Because gaps in logbooks is not a good thing. Also, you want to look at corrosion history. Has this airplane had any corrosion? And if so, how was it dealt with? When was that done? Where was the work done? What company did the work to get rid of the corrosion? Engine or APU programs, is it on program or off program? And avionics, can you upgrade the avionics? Some aircraft get to a point where you can't even upgrade the avionics. So you play with what you've got, and if you have to replace the avionics because something broke down, you won't be able to find a new one, so you have to see if you can find a used part, maybe off an airplane that crashed or that's been no longer in service. So these are things that, have to be looked into when you're looking at an older aircraft. Now, how old should you go? Now, of course, if you're going between 0 and 10 years, there's higher cost involved, but lower risk. 10 to 20 years is where you get the best value. Of course, the airplane has to have been well maintained. So again, that pre-buy inspection is key. 20 to 30 years is viable. The airplane must have a strong pedigree though, and also have had some upgrades, whether it's a new landing gear, new avionics, new engines, new interior, or maybe all of those. But if you're looking at something that's over 30 years old, that's where you really, really, really have to be careful. Everything has to be looked at. A very deep pre-buy inspection needs to be done on the aircraft, unless the aircraft has just recently had upgrades, new landing gear, new interior, new engines, whatever. Then what you would do is you would have your pre-buy inspection guy to have a look where this work was done, go through everything, what was removed, what was put on, all that kind of stuff. But there's 3 or 4 maintenance companies out there that do really, really good jobs, and you know that if the aircraft has gone through a particular maintenance shop and had the upgrades done, they would have been done very, very well. And so that's important. Now, the other thing, and I always talk about this, is when you upgrade aircraft, there has to be a thing which is called an STC, which is a supplemental type certificate. So you can't just say, I'm going to buy that plane and I'm going to put that in that airplane. Because what has to happen is that particular type of avionics, or whether you're putting Starlink on an airplane, or whatever modification you want to do, there needs to be a supplemental type certificate which allows you to install that particular type of equipment on that particular type of aircraft. And it has to be done by a company that follows this STC. The STC is a list of instructions. So it says this equipment can be installed in this airplane, and it has to be done through this system, which is a 20-point system, and it has to be done this way. And they follow the instructions, and they install the whole thing, and then once it's installed, they test it, make sure everything's working, all the bits are connected, and then you can go flying. So this is how this works. Now, there are some manufacturers that don't like you upgrading older airplanes. I don't think that's a good idea. I think those manufacturers that allow you to upgrade old aircraft, I think that's a very, very clever strategy, because it just builds that brand loyalty and that relationship with the brand. You know, Gulfstream are very good at this, for example. There's a lot of older Gulfstream G4s out there. We did a Gulfstream G4 last year for a client, a 4SP. Well, actually, we inspected a G4, and there were problems with the interior and with the windows going up and down. The system was broken, and the company that made that system were no longer in business. So we had to rip the whole thing out and put a new system in. Well, that was the plan. And so we went back to the owner and we said, okay, well, it's $1 million to change that system, put a new one in. We'll pay $500,000 towards it. You pay $500,000. The owner turned around and said, nope. You pay me what you agreed. I said, well, during the pre-buy inspection, we found that this system is faulty and can't be repaired. So we have to put a new one, and we have to put that cost in there. So we walked away from the deal. We then moved on to another aircraft, which we did acquire for the client, and we decided to, the aircraft was already a good candidate. It already had upgraded interior. It also had new avionics up front. What we did is we installed Starlink internet, Wi-Fi, and we also had fans 1A put in there so it can go into certain airspaces and get certain clearances and that. And we had that work done. Spent about $800,000 on the airplane. So all in, between one thing and another, our client spent $5 million for the airplane. But, you know, this $5 million, he could have spent 12, 13, 14 million on a G450. That's almost another $10 million. But with $5 million, he got an older airplane with a lot of upgrades that does the job of a 12, 13, 14 million dollar airplane. Now, of course, when it goes into maintenance, because it's an older airplane and it's not on programs, or only on some of the programs, it's going to cost you a little bit more. But, you know, you can still buy a lot of fuel and pay for a lot of maintenance with $10 million. So this is where, you know, if you buy an older airplane and you do it right, with the right technical team advising you and taking it to the right shops to have everything installed, you can get yourself a really, really good deal. You can do this on the Gulfstreams, even on the Citations. Some of the Citations, people have bought 35-year-old Citation, pulled the engines off, put the new FJ Williams engines on there because there's an STC that allows you to do that. Rip the avionics out, put Garmin avionics in there, again, because there's an STC that allows you to do that. Maybe the landing gear's already been overhauled. What you need to check is you need to check all the cables. That's okay, there's no corrosion and whatever. All these things need to be checked. You can put a new interior inside these airplanes, Starlink if their STC is available. So there's things that you can do. You can pick up these older Citations for $500,000-$600,000, spend a couple of million on them, and, you know, upgrade them, and, you know, it turns into a nice bit of kit. So these are all things that you can do. And obviously these things take time, so you have to factor that in, that you're going to buy the airplane, you're going to have certain work done, and of course today there's a bit of an issue with spare parts and getting airplanes into MROs booked to do jobs. So you have to plan in advance. If you're going to buy the airplane now, you need to book it in. They need to order the parts. It may take 3, 4, 5 months for the airplane to be finished and ready to fly. And but that's certainly something that can be done. You can really get some very good value for your money if you go about basically rebuilding an older airplane instead of going out and buying a new one. So that's certainly something that I'm seeing a lot more people do as we move into the market, because it just allows you to buy a private jet with maybe a bit more range for less money. And range is really, really important, because more range on an airplane, more options you have, more places you can go. The other factor which you need to look at is aircraft performance. So how much runway does this airplane need? And that's where, you know, some of the newer aircraft coming out there now have got some really, really good aerodynamics, which allows the airplane to land in shorter runways. If you're going into high mountainous regions in the summer, there's a thing called density altitude, which plays a factor, which requires you to have more runway for takeoff and landing. You may be limited with weight, which means you're going to end up having less range. So aerodynamics are another important thing to look at when buying an aircraft. And of course, if you're buying an older aircraft, some of them do perform well in and out short fields. That's certainly another thing that needs to be looked at, is where are you actually going to be going with this airplane? And does that airplane have the range? Does that airplane have the performance capability to go in and out of those runways they're going into? Some people need to land on grass strips or unpaved runways. There are some jets that do this, and it's not just the Pilatus PC-24 that lands on unpaved runways. There are some other jets that have special kits put on them, and there are STCs for that. You can even land a Learjet on an unpaved runway, and there's certain Learjets that have this kit available, where you can, with the STC you can get this done. There's also a kit for citation. You can land on grass and that. Just gotta be very careful with some of these things. You got to look into it carefully. Make sure you are getting the right aircraft to do that. But this is where technical advice is important. Now, that's the airplane side. Now we move on to the pilots, because when we go back to the Greg Biffer accident, they had a very, very experienced pilot on board. He'd flown with the airlines for many years, flown big airplanes like the A350, but he wasn't used to flying on his own. He didn't have a qualified co-pilot in the right-hand seat, and he went into a situation after they had this engine problem, apparently, after takeoff. He decided to come back and land in an airport which was uncontrolled. The weather was marginal, so he was in and out of cloud. It was raining. The visibility wasn't very good. The guy in the right-hand seat wasn't a well-trained first officer. It seems like it was the son that just had a private pilot's license. And the captain that was flying, he was not used to doing this type of flying. And so, he entered into what's called the killer zone. And I interviewed the guy that wrote the book, The Killer Zone. Very interesting interview. You need to check it out. Because, when you're coming from the airlines and you're going into flying a private jet, an older one in particular, and you're used to flying with another pilot, and you've flown with another pilot for 25 years, and now suddenly you're on your own, you're flying on your own, and you're flying into an area that you're not familiar with. I mean, last time you flew single pilot jet was maybe when you were in the military 25, 30 years ago. So, these are things that need to be looked at. I mean, I've nothing against employing airline pilots to fly your private jets. I actually have encouraged this in the past, and I still do. But whoever you hire needs to be trained to fly your type of airplane, and needs to be trained to fly into the environment, which is why, I always say, private jet pilots need more training than the airline pilots. Now, what we've done with our new business, Aerovat, we've created a club for aviators, and it's a training club. So we take care of all your training. In particular, if you are one of these pilot owners, so you fly your own jet, or you're thinking of learning to fly, buying your own aircraft and flying it yourself, we take care of all the training. And we've brought together all the best that you can get in military training and also civilian training, particular airline training, and we brought those together with 50 plus instructors that have military experience, and that will get you flying L-39s, CI-211s, these military jets, doing upset recovery training, upside down, going into spins, coming out of spins, learning how stalls work at 35,000 feet compared to 10,000 feet, doing it in the actual airplane so you can really feel what it's like, pulling some G's as well and having some fun while you're doing all this and learning in this flying classroom. We've got simulators available. We are putting people through Boeing 737 type rating, and our type rating isn't a 30-day training, it's a 6-month training. You do a lot more hours, and the whole idea of this is to get you to learn to fly an airliner, take the framework that you learn flying a big airplane like that and apply it to your smaller airplane. There's lots of lessons that can be learnt there to improve your flight safety and your knowledge. And these are the kind of things that we're doing with Aerobat, and we organise all your training for you, so you don't have to be calling 4 or 5 different training providers to organise your training. No, we will do all that for you. We will not only figure out what training you need, we'll organise it for you. We'll organise it around your schedule, which is really, really important, which is the struggle sometimes people have. And we're building a community of pilot owners. We're doing live events every week online with our instructors, talking about a number of subjects through our webinars. You can attend these webinars if you're a member of the club, and you can interact and ask questions, or you can watch them later on. They're all recorded and loaded onto our platform. So these are kind of things that we're doing here with Aerobat, the Ultimate Aviators Training Club. And this is something that, we've seen, a problem in the market with private jets, and it's the training. Private jet pilots need more training because the environments they're flying in and out of are a lot more challenging. And so, simulators are a great place to do this type of training. And also the other thing we're doing is we're sending our instructors out to fly with members of our club. So you can have one of our instructors come and fly with you for 3 days. They'll see how you're implementing the things that you've learned online, the things that you've learned during the 737 course, or even during your type rating on your Honda jet, and they'll sit there and they'll go through procedures and whatever, and they'll help you with crew coordination, they'll help you with performance, with all sorts of things in relation to your aircraft, and help you to become a better pilot. A bit like when you hire a golf coach to help you improve your golf, your swing, your putting, your short game, whatever you're working on. This is what we do with our instructors. We'll send them out to fly with you. So, and we're looking at gamifying this whole experience as well to improve the system and improve performance in order to improve safety. And that's kind of what we're focused on. So, buying an older aircraft, certainly a good idea. Needs to go about it in a certain way. So reach out to me. We can get on a call and talk about your needs and see what we can do here and help you acquire the aircraft, do any work that needs doing to it, train the pilots or train you to fly the airplane and fly it safely, and send our coaches out to look after you from time to time and make sure that you are performing at your best and you're applying everything you learn. And then doing scenario-based learning, which is another important thing. We need to look at accidents that have happened over the last few years on that particular aircraft, and then look at the airfields you're going in and out of, and design some training programs simulating those emergencies around the airports you're flying in and out of. If you're going into airports like Aspen or Lugano in Switzerland, or St. Moritz in Switzerland in the middle of the mountains, there are challenges with those type of airfields. Or you're going into airfields in Colombia, which are at high altitude, again, in the summer. There's performance issues. We go through all those things. Or you're going in and out, icing conditions in a PC-12. You need to learn all about icing and de-icing and all that kind of stuff. So we cover all these subjects in order to help you to be safe. And these are really, really important things. You need to continue educating yourself. So buying an old aircraft, great idea, but must go about it in a certain way. And the pilot training is another thing which we're big on. So hope you enjoyed this episode of Biz Jet TV. Comment below. Let's get the conversation going. Check out these other videos we did about buying airplanes, what to look for, what not to look for, and different types of airplanes on this whole thread of different videos that we've done here, over 1,200 videos here on Biz Jet TV. And that's all from Police Polly here, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.